Friends, the story begins underwater, where something appears to be moving through the murky ocean. The camera then shifts to shore, where two fishermen are packing up. One says this is his first catch in days, though it is very small. The other points at the sky and says the approaching storm looks bad. They head home before the storm that will soon change everything. A woman begins narrating, saying everyone remembers where they were the day the rain came. It was Sunday, and the forecast had promised sunshine, but the radio reports that a system across the ocean has changed course and heavy rain is coming. That day, they learned they were not alone, and how far people might go to protect their homes. Now we meet the Delgado family. Jason, the fisherman from earlier, his wife Anne, son Graham, daughter Ruth, and their old dog Cassidy. Anne says the house foundation is sinking and the chimney is cracked. The house is practically being held together by that chimney, which will become very important later. The kids remind Jason that he promised to get a Christmas tree, but they cannot even leave because the door will not open. Soon they realize none of the doors or windows will open. There is no phone signal or Wi-Fi either. Jason thinks it is a prank and tries breaking a window, but instead, he is thrown backward. Then comes the big twist. It is happening to the entire street. Everyone is trapped inside their homes. A woman named Susan appears outside, so they ask her to get help, but even her husband cannot get out of his house. Clearly, this is much bigger than they thought. The neighbors begin communicating by writing messages on their windows. Someone thinks the government may be behind it for protection. Another blames aliens, making Ruth ask why aliens would lock everyone inside. Finally, Jason writes the question everyone is thinking. Is this happening everywhere? That night, Jason reveals a secret to Anne. He shows her a weapon he bought without telling her. Anne is shocked because they have 2 children. Jason says he has been having nightmares for weeks and felt his family was in danger. Anne's anger turns to fear, and she asks him to teach her how to use it safely. Later, Jason investigates the barrier. Rainwater seems to form a strange wall around the house, even going beneath the ground. Air can still enter, so they can breathe normally. Anne hopes everything will end when the rain stops, but Jason says whatever trapped them was not made by humans. The next day, Anne creates a daily routine and says this is not a vacation. Jason calculates that with careful rationing, their food could last 2 months. Electricity, water, and gas must now be treated as luxuries. That night, he kneels beside Cassidy and apologizes because he cannot open the door for him. As the days pass, Graham becomes frustrated with studying and asks what the point is. Jason agrees and decides to teach the kids something practical: how to prepare fish. Since there are no fish, Ruth gives them her stuffed toys to practice with. Graham asks how Jason knows so much, and Jason reveals he once owned a fishing boat but sold it because raising kids was expensive. Meanwhile, Anne saves and dries tomato seeds instead of throwing them away, a small decision that could help them survive. Their neighbor, Max Richardson, says the same thing is happening for at least 5 blocks. He asks whether they have food, but when Jason asks him the same question, Max gives no answer, suggesting some homes are already running low. Christmas arrives, and the family celebrates inside. Through the windows, they see lights glowing in neighboring homes. Everyone is trapped, but they still try to celebrate. Then the rain returns. Ruth quietly says the rainwalker is back, someone she claims only appears when it rains. Moments later, a deep growl comes from outside. At dinner, Ruth again says she saw someone outside trying to communicate with her. Jason finally loses patience and tells her to stop talking about it. That night, Anne worries everything happening will leave a permanent mark on the kids. Outside, the sky is so clear that the stars are easy to count because there are no planes or pollution. Then Anne notices something strange. Deep down, Jason actually likes being trapped there, and he quietly admits it. Outside, an animal appears with its young, and Anne says the world belongs to them now. On Christmas morning, Ruth gets half an apple. The kids give Anne something money cannot buy, the first tomato they grew inside the house. Everyone insists she eat it herself, and Anne becomes emotional while eating it. Then Ruth yells that the elderly woman across the street needs help. Jason sends the kids into another room. When they later ask if she will be okay, Jason simply says no. Ruth cries and asks if Christmas is over. That same night, Jason gives Cassidy his final dose of medicine. A few days later, Ruth stands by the window singing for the rain to go away when a scream comes from outside. It is Susan. She shouts that everyone is gone, no help is coming, and they should hide before those things see them. Jason helplessly says they cannot help her. Then something huge and terrifying grabs Susan and carries her away. For the first time, they see what has trapped their world. Shaken, the family holds a meeting. Ruth says she tried warning them before, but what she saw earlier seemed friendly, unlike the creatures outside now. New rules are made. Hide every sign of life and cover the windows. Ruth asks if monsters are real, and Graham says they are now. Jason has only one answer for what comes next: survive. A few days later, the chimney cap falls off, leaving an opening to the sky. Ruth thinks they might escape through it, but Jason says the top is too narrow and could collapse under his weight. Ruth volunteers because she is the lightest. She climbs up, reaches her hand outside, and says she can feel the air. This proves the opening is a weakness in the barrier, but the relief quickly turns into sadness. Cassidy collapses because his medicine is gone and his heart is failing. Jason sends the kids away while the TV is turned up. Anne covers their ears and tells them to sing, and through the noise, a loud shot is heard. Afterward, they face another problem: what to do with Cassidy. Anne suggests the fireplace, but Jason quietly mentions the freezer. Anne immediately refuses, but Jason says if things become desperate, they may need that option. Anne tells him to handle it because she does not want to know. From here, the story becomes about more than survival. It becomes about how far people can be pushed. The kids are starting to understand their situation. Ruth thinks aliens are responsible, while Graham says aliens cannot control rain. They reach the same conclusion. The family is now their prisoner. Then the rain starts again, and everyone follows the same drill. A deep growl comes from outside the window, and the family freezes until the creature finally leaves. Now hunger becomes the real enemy. Ruth asks for more food and demands to see what is left. Anne opens the storage area, and it is nearly empty. That night, Jason talks about hope again, but Anne has had enough. She says they cannot keep pretending everything will be fine. They are running out of food, and she cannot watch their children starve. Jason insists he will find a way, but Anne is no longer convinced. Then comes one of the film's best payoffs. Graham puts something in front of his parents and says they can cook it. He has prepared the small animals that entered the house exactly the way Jason taught him, then nervously asks if he did something wrong. The lesson the kids thought was pointless has now helped save them. That gives Jason a new idea. He hangs a trap high inside the chimney and uses a carrot as bait. Graham asks if foxes eat carrots, and Jason explains the carrot is for the smaller animal that will attract the fox. The family names this new hunting method chimney fishing. After this, Jason starts tearing up the floors because there are a few inches of soil beneath the subfloor. Their new plan is to grow food inside the house. The narrator explains that days become weeks and weeks become months. Most people starve, some lose hope, while others find a purpose and keep going. The outside world has become unfamiliar, but inside, this family has created its own freedom. Eventually, the electricity disappears for good, but Graham says it does not matter because they can still make music. Then comes a huge time jump. Years have passed, and the house has transformed into an indoor jungle filled with crops, animals, and its own ecosystem. Anne explains that the house really is sinking now, because years of non-stop rain have washed away the soil beneath it. Jason then reveals his surprise. After 7 years of work, he has managed to get their old car running again. Graham calls it a waste of time because the car can never go anywhere. Jason finally snaps. The power is gone, the gas is gone, nearly everything is gone, yet they are still alive because he keeps fighting for them. And if the rain ever stops, he wants to be ready. Later, Anne finally says what everyone has been avoiding. Both children are breaking down inside, and this is not a real childhood. Jason argues that his only job is keeping everyone alive. Anne reminds him that this is not his fight alone. Then she says something that hits him hard. The kids miss their father, and she misses her husband. The rain begins again. Jason takes Ruth's drawings away because leaving them in the attic could reveal that people are living inside. Suddenly, growling comes from outside and everyone hides. This time, the creature is directly above the house, its sounds echoing through the walls. Jason moves forward with his weapon. Then comes one of the most tense moments. The creature somehow opens the front door, and Graham sees his chance to escape. He runs toward the outside, but Jason grabs him and pulls him back. Graham screams that he had finally made it out. Some of the strange rain lands on Ruth. She tastes it and realizes it is not rainwater at all. It is salty ocean water. At that exact moment, the rain stops. Now Ruth explains her theory, leading to the film's biggest reveal. She says around 80% of the ocean has never been explored. What if these creatures never came from another planet? What if the old stories about sea monsters were actually true? If they come from the ocean, that could explain how they control the rain. According to Ruth, they are not invading Earth at all. This was their world first. This is their home. The entire indoor farm is dead because the creature contaminated both the soil and their drinking water with salt. Jason says they can collect dew and start growing again, but Anne reminds him of his own survival rule: 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. They now have only 3 days. Then Anne destroys the belief Jason has held onto for years. She tells him they are not alive because of him. They survived because of one crack in the chimney. They are no better than the people who died outside. They were simply luckier. In the middle of the argument, another emergency appears. One of the animals living inside the house has bitten Ruth. Within days, the wound becomes infected. Her fever will not go down, and they are forced to give her the last of their clean water. Now only one thing might save her: antibiotics. Desperate, Jason makes a reckless move. He starts the car he spent years rebuilding and drives it straight into the barrier. It does not work, but during the destruction, he notices something on the floor: a crack. Because the house is sinking, the barrier underneath has shifted too. Jason immediately begins digging. Anne tries to stop him and they argue, but suddenly his tool breaks through to the other side. The barrier never extended as deep underground as they thought. The opening leads to the neighborhood's main sewer pipe, connecting all the houses, and that gives them hope. Richardson is a dentist, so there should be antibiotics inside his home, but the pipe is too narrow for Jason. Anne steps forward and says she will do it. Anne crawls through the pipe while Jason stays in contact with her. Halfway through, the signal disappears and Jason panics, but eventually her voice returns. When Anne reaches the Richardson house, she finds something horrifying. Years of flooding have destroyed the place, and Mrs. Richardson's remains are still inside. Then the rain starts again. Jason tells Anne to return, but she refuses to leave without the medicine. She searches until she finally finds the antibiotics, but before she can escape, the creature arrives. Anne is forced into a desperate chase and fires at it before barely managing to grab the line and get pulled back to safety. Ruth finally receives the medicine. Then Jason asks one simple question that makes everything worse: where is the weapon? Anne tells him she lost it. Jason now makes one final decision. He believes the creature will come after them, and it does not know how many people are inside, so he tells Anne to take the kids into the attic, hide, and stay there until the rain stops while he remains downstairs. Anne says he is giving up, but Jason says he is not. They will survive because of what he is about to do. Then Graham says what becomes the message of the entire film: simply breathing is not the same as living. If those creatures can open the door, then getting outside must also be possible. Anne agrees, saying their family is falling apart while desperately trying to survive. Jason finally gives in. They will fight together, using the one weapon they know best: their own house. Then comes their final plan. Jason orders every window opened. They are done hiding. This time they will invite the creatures inside and trap them like fish. Everyone gets a role. Graham will track it, Ruth will cast the line, Anne will lure it in, and Jason will set the hook. Anne says they were trapped in this house to die, but today will be their last day inside it. The final battle begins. Water floods the house as the creature enters, forcing the family in different directions. Jason cannot get a clear shot, so he tells Anne to create light. Using it, he finally manages to hook the creature, but it is so powerful that Jason gets dragged across the house, while the rising water forces everyone toward the attic. Then they realize the harpoon was left in the kitchen. Graham decides to retrieve it himself. He dives into the flooded house, passes dangerously close to the creature and returns with the harpoon. Upstairs, the family holds on to each other as the water reaches the ceiling. Jason tells everyone to take one deep breath. In the final struggle, Jason manages to overpower the creature. The house is collapsing, and Anne screams for him to get them outside, but the door will not open. Furious, Jason threatens the creature, demanding that it open the door. Then Ruth suddenly shouts that if he hurts it, they may never escape. In that moment, everything they have learned comes back to Jason. The creature suddenly stops fighting. It trembles and makes a painful sound, almost like an injured animal. Jason hesitates and finally lets it go, choosing mercy instead of finishing it. And in return, the creature opens the door. Outside, more creatures are waiting, but none of them attack. They simply allow the family to leave. After years trapped inside, Ruth runs through the open air laughing. The rain has finally stopped. The narrator says the rain ended on a Tuesday, and for the first time in years, their family felt hope. In the end, one act of mercy gave them freedom. They showed compassion to the creatures, and the creatures showed it back. Finally, the family leaves by boat in search of a new home. The narration reveals that the person telling this story is actually an older Ruth, as she speaks about her parents and brother. She says that for years they believed they were alone, but after the rain, they learned they did not have to be. Then a voice comes through the radio asking if anyone else survived. After a moment, a strange voice answers, "Hello." Whether that voice belongs to another human or something else is deliberately left unanswered. And after the story ends, one final growl can be heard. So friends, this film is not really just about monsters. It is about a father who became so focused on protecting his family that their own home became a prison, and a young girl who chose understanding instead of fear. The entire story asks one question: is staying alive enough? Or is real life what we choose once we stop letting fear control us? And in the end, they did not escape through violence, but through mercy. So what do you think? If you were in Jason's place during that final moment, would you have stopped?